Hi everyone. I want to do a story time with you guys about my experience in jury duty. It has been a lot for me. I will not talk about any specifics of the case because I'm not allowed to, because the trial is still going, and that I feel like will be like a separate video. What I'm experiencing right now is the deliberation part of the trial, which is, in my opinion, has been the most difficult part of the trial. So, story time. Get your wine out and join me on this roller coaster of emotions that I don't understand. So let's get into the story. So I'm gonna start with day one of deliberation. Day one, after the judge explains to us our role as jurors, after we've been listening to the trial for over 2 weeks, and we go into the room. Now, it is really 12 of us, 12 jurors. 12 jurors and 3 jurors that are used as replacements, but they're not in the deliberation with us. They're just there just in case something happens to one of us, they can step in, but they're not there to deliberate. They have heard the whole trial, but they're not able to sit with us and deliberate on our answers. So it is 3 counts that we have to speak on. We have to go one by one and make a conclusion, starting with the first one and going on to the next, about if we think that the person is guilty or not guilty. So before this, I would like to say that I initially thought that I was gonna be the only one that felt that the defendant was not guilty. And I thought this because even though emotions were high, I had my own opinions, and I thought that everybody else was going to think that he was guilty because the evidence was really emotional. But as a juror, I felt like I was putting my emotions aside. So I am juror number 1, which means that I am the juror that has to say whether or not the defendant is guilty or not guilty, which means that I'm the defendant that has to do the speaking and has to. My role as a juror was that if we had any questions, I had to be the one to sign off on those questions and give it to the judge. So I already felt like I had a really big responsibility, right? Because I was going to be the one to speak for all of us as a collective. So when we get into the deliberation room, we sit based on our seatings, which is one thing as a juror that, I don't know, we all have to sit in a specific kind of way. So we all are used to sitting like this for over 2 weeks. So when we get into the room, it's quiet. We listen to what the judge tells us to do. We have listened to everything that the lawyers have to say. So we are in the room about to deliberate. And somebody says, well, we should start by saying our answers, whether he's guilty or not, on count 1, by starting with juror number 1, which is me. So I'm like, okay, cool guys, like, do you guys want me to explain like the reason why I think if he's guilty or not guilty, or just say whether I think he's guilty or not guilty? They're like, no, just tell us if you think that he's guilty or not guilty. We all agree this is the way that we were gonna do it. So I go and I say not guilty, thinking, shit, I'm the first one to go. I already feel a little bit nervous about my opinion because I think I'm going to be the only one to feel this way, right? So I'm already thinking in my mind, this is gonna be challenging because my opinion could be different from everybody else's opinion. Jurors go on and on. I don't want to say who specifically said not guilty or guilty because I feel like that will be against the law. But I will say this, I was not the only one that said that he was not guilty. In fact, the majority of us, I'm not gonna say how many people, said that he was not guilty. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I'm gonna post this after and I'm gonna just make sure that I read through the law and see what I can say and not say about the deliberation within this case. So After everybody goes, I'm like, okay, wow, like a lot of people think like me. Like I am not the only one. So there were 3 jurors that said that they thought that he was guilty. And this is day 1 of the deliberation. So after all of us say whether we think that he's guilty or not guilty, we decide to go one by one again and say the reason why we think so. So again, I go first. I say my reasoning and I state my case as to why I think that the defendant is not guilty. Everybody goes through one by one and sets their opinion. Now, when that happens, 2 out of the jurors that decided that he was guilty decided that they changed their mind and they say, based on what you all said, I changed my opinion and I think that we have to find him not guilty. Now that leaves 1 juror out of all of us that still believes that he's guilty. When I realized that there was only 1 person that thought that the defendant was guilty, I said to the group that we only have 1 person that thinks that that the defendant is not that is guilty. So I want all of us to be respectful, and I want all of us not to attack or make them feel like we have to change their opinion. They're entitled to their opinion, but we just have to make sure that this person is open to hearing our perspective so that we can show them why we think that this person is not guilty. And this person's willing, the juror should be willing to also share their perspective and to say why they think that he's guilty. So I can only speak for myself, and this is the way that I handle this. When we went through the investigation and the questioning, one of my questions for the juror was, if you think that this person is guilty, can you tell me how they committed the crime? Because in order for you to tell me that somebody committed a crime, you should be able to tell me how they committed that crime. Now, juror that thinks that he's guilty cannot answer me this question. Okay. I'd rather people go on to talk about emotions, because that's a really big element of the case. Our emotions. How a lot of us were stuck because emotionally we wanted to find him guilty, but evidence-wise, we couldn't really hold him to it with the evidence. Now, let me just say this. We are in a small room with a long table, barely any air, no actual windows to see the outside. It was just windows of the space. Like, we can only see windows that reflect the other side of the courtroom, so we're not able to open up windows. I think that by hour 2, hour 3, we start getting a little bit hot, thirsty, uncomfortable. Like, a lot of us had to stand from our chairs because we were tired of sitting down. So all of this mixture plus the fact that we have 1 person, 1 juror that thinks the opposite of us, is going to create a little bit of conflict. A lot of people were getting really upset by this juror because they were asking questions the juror was not answering. Now, I am sitting right in front of this juror, like right across from this juror, like she's in front of me. And there were a lot of conversations that me and this juror would have, like one-on-one, when everybody else was like talking amongst themselves, looking at the evidence all over again. Like, I would kind of just take that moment to speak to this juror, because I felt like just understanding like how this juror, from what I seen, this juror was like quiet, very like to themselves. I'm like, okay, like let me just do a little one-on-one. So this is one of the questions that I will ask, or what I would say. I would say something like, and I did say this, there's a lot about this investigation that creates doubt in my mind. Do you have any doubts? The juror will say, no. I'm like, so there's nothing that you question about this? No. I will say, well, if there's nothing that you question about this case, can you tell me how it was done? No, I can't. What kind of evidence shows you that he did this? They will say something like, well, the evidence shows me that they did this. And I will say, what kind of evidence? And they will say, all the evidence that we saw. And I will say, what kind of evidence? Like, you need to tell me what exactly are you referring to, so that we can analyze it together, because we need to come to a decision unanimously, and you're the only one that doesn't think the way that we think. So either we're all wrong and we want to hear what you have to say so we can decide that he's actually guilty, or you listen to us and listen to our perspective and we decide that he's not guilty. But you need to express yourself. You need to talk to us, because I felt like the juror was not speaking. The juror shut down at some point. So the juror goes, "Don't patronize me." Like literally in front of the whole group, the juror was like, "Don't patronize me." And I said, "I'm not patronizing you. I just really want to understand your perspective." So this already showed me like, okay, the juror's being a little bit defensive. Like maybe I should back off. So I say one more time, like, listen, like it's very challenging to be in a space when everybody thinks different than you. Please don't think that like we're here to attack you. And the juror goes, "No, I'm used to being the only one that thinks differently." So in my mind, I'm already starting to think like, okay, this person is kind of like, I don't know how to put this into words. I'm like, you're bringing personal traumas into this. If you're already thinking about how everything else in your life goes and you bring it into this situation, that's kind of a red flag to me. And the juror goes, "I'm already used to everyone thinking different than me. I'm used to being the only one standing. And you guys could tell the judge whatever you guys want to say." So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, red flag, red flag. But I'm still, you know, trying to understand this juror. Time we want to relook through evidence, we have to give a letter to the judge through the police officers. And the only way that we could do that is by me, because I'm juror number 1. I have to knock on the door, give them the note, the police officer will give it to the judge, and then whenever they're ready for us to look at the evidence that we asked for, then we all have to come into the courtroom with the 3 jurors that are like on standby, plus the people, plus the defendant, plus the judge, plus everybody else that's in the courtroom, the officers, the person that takes notes, the person that's like a secretary, like everybody needs to be ready for us to go back into the courtroom to listen to this evidence. They don't just give it to you. You have to go back into the courtroom and you have to listen to it, and then you go back into the room that you have to deliberate in. So this is the process, okay? This is a process. There was a conversation about one of the evidence. We all agree, like, hey, if we show you this, will you agree that he's not guilty? She's like, okay, like, I wanna listen to that. Let's see what he has to say. Let's revisit this. We're like, cool. I wanted to you, I was locked into this freaking juror, like to this court, like testimonies and everything. I was locked in. I was the first juror. I was in front of everybody. Whenever there was a witness on the stand, I was right next to them. Like I was present, because I couldn't not be. Like it's like everybody was looking at me, so I wasn't gonna like doze off. I took it very serious, so I knew, okay, if we go back and listen to this witness, I remember mostly everything that they said. So if we go back and listen to this witness, like we got it. She's going to think that he's not guilty. Okay, all of us sit back down one by one, and there are assigned seats. We have to walk into the courtroom a certain kind of way, because we have to walk lined up based on our juror numbers and how we sit, which took us a while to remember, but we got there. Okay, we're all sitting down. The lady that transcribes everything, she goes into the book and she reads us again what the witness has said. Now this witness is an expert, and juror that was convinced that the guy was guilty said, well, this expert said this is why I believe that he's guilty. We listen to it. I'm like, okay, mental notes, because we can't write anything down while we're in the courtroom. We can't write things down. So I'm mentally noting everything that I'm going to say based on what I'm hearing again. And we all come back in to the courtroom, to the jury, where we have to deliberate, the room that we have to deliberate. We all walk into it. Literally, I can hear the other jurors saying, perfect. That's all we needed to hear. Okay, this solidifies everything. Oh my gosh, he really hit the nail on the head, right? Like, we already, like, this shows so much, right? Like, this is exactly what we were telling you, and now we just heard it. We all sit down. It's like, after we all sit down, it's like,